"Our contract is over," she yelled at the top of her voice since he has refused to let her be. It's another horrible day at the office, and this man comes to make it even worse. Why does he keep showing up despite all her warnings? He tells her that he feels somewhat guilty for her failure, and it gets her furious. It turns out that she started a matchmaking company called Good Couples that is on the verge of falling apart, and she's so broke that she has to feed off her friend without contributing a penny to their lifestyle. Her current situation is all thanks to Ethan Lakers, the man whose sense of responsibility and moral responsibility actually makes him feel pity for the CEO of Good Couples because he contributed a quota to her downfall. A few months ago, the CEO of Good Couples attended an event for the upper-class rich folks, where she met Mr. Ethan IV, successor of the Lakers family, who was looking for a successful marriage match. Rumor has it that you can't go 20 steps in California without stepping on his family's land. They are indeed the upper class of the upper class. Even if he lived with different women for 3 months, he still wouldn't be lonely. So why is he looking for a woman to not just spend his days with, but to actually get married to, and possibly have children? Well, let's not try to understand the upper class, because this is the perfect time for the Good Couples matchmakers to strike. Lane Lee, the CEO of Good Couples, informs Mr. Ethan that she's ready to dedicate her life to finding a perfect match for him, and he's simply amused because she's just only going to waste her time. Mr. Ethan doesn't seem to fancy the Good Couples matchmakers and asks Lane to take the unworthy life she's willing to dedicate to him and gamble it somewhere else because he'd never in a million years ever get involved with a company like hers. This is definitely going to be a lot of work for her, but she's willing to give it all she has, because if she successfully makes this man a VIP at her company, female members will flock into from near and wide. She was finally able to secure a contract with this hard of a nut to crack, but her joy was short-lived as the contract ended as nothing more than a bubble. He lets her know that her previous company even filed a lawsuit, and the amount they're demanding as damages is in fact enormous, and he's simply amused. She tells him that it's none of his business as she doesn't need help from someone like him, and he seems quite hurt from her choice of words, but he buckles up and asks her to stop acting childish, because every time she acts emotional, she always tends to mess things up, and Lane gets quite upset. It's quite audacious of him standing here and telling her about emotions, because where was his so-called emotions when he asked her for a sham marriage? But marriage is actually meant to be built on love and trust, and it's not her fault that she misunderstood his horrible intentions. Hence, she doesn't need his pity-party behavior or sense of moral responsibility. Mr. Ethan then asks that they should work together again since she doesn't want his pity, and he's ready to pay her double the contract sum, but Lane isn't moved and precisely tells him that she dislikes him, and he's simply surprised. What exactly does she not like about him? But to her, it's all about his odd personality, because why is he so persistent on working with her company? Maybe he holds a grudge against her, and Mr. Ethan disagrees, because why should he? She then asks if it's a thing of affection, and he slightly flinches. He might actually have a thing for her, but Lane stands her ground about not wanting to work with him again. Mr. Ethan is frustrated with her decision and doesn't seem to understand why she's always hell-bent on choosing the long way around when there's always an easier route. And if she truly needs money, she'll grab the opportunity with open arms. She just hates the way he views marriage as an avenue for making money, and even asks him if he's actually a sociopath. And he immediately warns her to stop crossing the line, but she accuses him of crossing the line first. She really doesn't seem to like Mr. Ethan and never hides how furious she gets whenever she's around him. And she also doesn't fail to let him know that she isn't as pathetic and easy to deal with as he thinks. If he wants a woman that wouldn't love him, he should find her himself, or a woman he can get rid of by just giving her a few bucks after their separation when he finally gets tired of her. A desperate man like him needs a desperate woman too. And Mr. Ethan is speechless. Lane's audacity is quite questionable, so he does something that catches her off guard. He leans towards her, making her tilt backwards, and he quickly grabs her by the waist and whispers into her ear, "Want me to tell you why I'm insisting on working with your company, or rather working with you? Because you're useful in many ways," he blurts out. Lane is shocked, and she gets quite uncomfortable and shy as he tells her that she's the perfect candidate for him. A woman who is just desperate for money and would never love him, so he asks her to marry him. A few years earlier, at the company's VIP lounge, Mr. Ethan just can't seem to focus because he simply can't take his eyes off this young lady whose aura has filled the lounge. He sights an unfamiliar face whose sound of laughter makes even the listener feel good because it's so pure, genuine, and without pretense. He can only wonder what conversation is going on between them that's making them laugh so loudly and smile so brightly. It's actually Lane Lee, an employee of Golden Wedding. She's on the phone with her friend who she's telling how flavorful the wine tastes, but her friend is actually worried about her taking a lot and possibly getting drunk, which will cause her to make a mess of herself in the lounge. It's actually VIP lounge hours, which is for members only. How come the deputy CEO is rewarding them with such an opportunity? Nevertheless, Lane is ready to enjoy every bit of it. Mindy is definitely sure that the deputy CEO has something up his sleeve when he gave her this reward, because she heard from a source that he's actually a flirt, so he might actually have other intentions. Lane is ready to escape him if she even gets the slightest hint that this is what he's up to, but for now she has to find a way to speak to the social elites at the lounge because she needs to snag a matchmaker deal. This is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so she just can't wait to be the first East Asian executive to be at the Golden Wedding. Mr. Ethan's personal assistant, Noah, snaps him out of his trance as he has almost spent a decade staring at Lane Lee, and he teases him about liking Lane, but he gets furiously shy and asks that they leave. Noah can only wonder what attracted Ethan's attention to Lane, because the Ethan he knows would never take a second glance at a lady. Meanwhile, everyone in the hall is staring at Ethan, but this woman doesn't seem interested at all. "Ethan Rakers!" a voice sarcastically calls out, and Ethan isn't pleased to hear that voice at all because it's his arch-enemy Mr. Evans, the deputy CEO of Golden Wedding. He asks why Ethan is here at this hour and wonders if he has finally found a match because this place is perfect for picking up women, as even the most high-maintenance ones go crazy for this hostel, and he himself is also here to have dome fun. Ethan has the "here we go again" look on his face, and it almost drives Evans crazy because that look on Ethan's face is one he wears when he looks down on people like they're insects. Don't get the idea wrong. I'm looking at an insect as if it were a person, Ethan replies, and Evans gets even angrier. He never seems to understand Mr. Ethan's choice of words every single time, because he always makes things hard to understand, and Ethan sarcastically tells him he'd make it easier next time. Speaking of next time, Evans invites Ethan to a gathering of the upper class, but Ethan isn't interested, and goes ahead to tell him that he'll be busy on that day when Evans hasn't even mentioned the date. He promises to set everything to his taste, but Ethan shrugs his offer off and tells him to focus more on himself and his own taste. Oh, how Evans hates to be ignored by Mr. Ethan every single time, and he goes ahead to tell him that this attitude of his makes him believe the rumors that are spreading around, and he asks if he's truly gay. Ethan isn't amused by this question, and reminds Evans that he started those rumors, and here he is asking him about something which he knows is false, but Evans completely denies ever starting such rumors. Ethan immediately tells Noah that it's high time they take their leave, and Noah mentions how Evan's behavior is becoming unbearable, but he's asked to ignore him. "Oh, who do we have here? My cute Asian princess was hiding here." Evans calls out, and Ethan quickly halts to see who it is. Evans is actually referring to Lane, and he wonders if she actually knows this jerkbag. Evans asks the surprised Lane if she's enjoying all the company's benefits. She asks what brings him here, as she least expects that he'd enjoy gatherings like this. But he's busy teasing her about how well she has been able to fit in with these VIP people, because she must have taken a vacation to a luxury hotel to learn how to act like this, as she doesn't look like the type of person to be enjoying herself like this. She informs him that she's only here for market research, as he instructed her earlier. He quickly puts his hands on her shoulders and tells her to loosen up and actually try to enjoy herself because he was only teasing her, and she seems quite uncomfortable. Why is he acting this way with her? She quickly gets up to leave as nothing good comes out of getting involved with a playboy, but he grabs her by the hand and orders her to take a seat. But Lane isn't about to put up with his trashy behavior. He lets go of her hand and sarcastically renders an apology as she reminds him that she's here for business purposes, and he offers that they talk business, as he asks her what information she was able to gather here today. She realizes that she wasn't able to gather significant information, and she only felt strongly that she doesn't belong to this conservative high society, and she remains silent to Mr. Evans' question. Just sitting around wouldn't get her automatically closer to the elite people, so Evans offers to help her. He tells her about a chess meeting that'd be held here shortly, and a few of his single friends will be in attendance so she could actually join them. She's surprised that he's making her an offer like this, if he's truly ready to give her such a privilege, but he tells her that it's more of a test than a privilege because he wants to figure out how she was able to become a top employee, whether it was by chance or by skill. A lot of employees are questioning her excellence and even attributes it to the fake marriages for business visas that Asians are good at, and Lane is simply furious. She got the contracts through the proper procedures, yet Evans tells her that everyone still suspects her because they think being Asian gives her an advantage, so she should take this opportunity to actually prove herself, and she agrees to take the test. Meanwhile, Mr. Ethan is still sulking about what happened at the lounge, and Noah breaks the ice as he tells him that the lady at the lounge actually seems like a Golden Wedding employee, and she could even possibly be a top employee or something. However, he can only wonder what she and Mr. Evans were doing at the lounge at that hour and not in the office. Maybe they're seeing each other, and he sees Ethan flinch from the rear mirror. He quickly readjusts his perspective and suggests that she must be quite capable, that's why she's hanging out with the vice president of the company. He asks Noah to pull over as they sight a car, and it turns out to be Mrs. Sierra. And she seems quite excited to see Noah. She calls him her little puppy as she pinches his cheek. But Ethan doesn't seem as glad as Noah is. Noah asks why she's out here, instead of going inside. And it turns out that her car suddenly stopped. Maybe it knows how much she dreads going back into that devil's house, and Ethan asks her to leave then. Turns out that Mrs. Sierra is actually Ethan's mother. Meanwhile, Lane goes over to Evans for the chess meeting and finds out that they're the only ones here, but he tells her that the rest are yet to arrive, so he offers her a drink while they wait. She refuses to drink because she doesn't want to get drunk before the others arrive, but he insists by telling her that they'd like her anyway because she's pretty, so she should be confident. However, she thinks something is fishy and asks if she's the only one he invited, and he asks her to stop acting innocent when she knows exactly why she's here. He quickly grabs her and pushes her against his bed while leaning over her and offers that they make a deal like adults that they are. If she gives him what he wants, he'll give her what she wants. "Do you even know what I want?" she asks with a smirk. But Evans knows how ambitious she is, and she just wouldn't be satisfied with just an annual hotel membership. Lane is so worried and needs to leave his grip as soon as possible because she's so sure that he has been planning this for quite a while now and would do anything within his powers to make it a reality. She then tells him to come a little closer, as which he quickly does, and she pushes him away for being too hasty. "Go take a shower first," she says slyly, and he quickly agrees to do so. Now Lane has enough time to plan an escape. She needs to teach this pervert a lesson, so she must put up a fight before she does. She throws his clothes out the window and turns on a loud siren sound, signaling him that there's a fire in the building, and he has to escape as soon as possible. In fear and in a scurry, he quickly runs out of the bathroom and into the hallway with no clothes on. And everyone is shocked. They call him a pervert and quickly call the police. In no time, the police arrives and arrest him, but he tries to tell them that he was tricked, but no one seems to believe him. May the pervert rest in peace. The following day, Lane is wrongfully fired from the company, and she quickly storms into the vice CEO's office. She's being accused of disrupting the workplace atmosphere due to conflicts with her colleagues, and the rumors spread around the entire industry because Evans is determined to ruin her completely. He tells her to ask for his forgiveness, and then he might reconsider, but no way Lane is ready to stoop to such a level. She's ready to put up a fight even if it leads to her death and wasting her time at Golden Wedding, and that was how Good Couples was born. Thinking about what happened only made her angrier, so now they must focus on doing their best and making sure her new company works. But her friend doesn't think starting a business in the middle of a recession is such a good idea. Well, Lane isn't ready to listen. She thanks her friend Mindy for sticking with her so far, and for believing that she could pull this off to the extent that she invested all her savings into Good Couples. Don't lose confidence. Just overtake Golden Wedding in one go, Mindy says. But their other friend thinks it'd be more realistic to set next month's rent as a goal instead, and they both shut him up. But he still emphasizes how hard it'd be to overtake the industry leader, and she knows this better than anyone. Lane gets furious as she knows how dirty and unfair those guys can be, and she just can't wait to end their reign and in fact everything about them. Because right now it might just be a tiny office, but she's still the CEO. Meanwhile, over at the Lakers mansion, Mrs. Sierra is having a reunion with her children and grandchildren, but Ethan is still so unhappy to see her, but she seems to be having a good time getting to know her grandchildren. The twins are named Dewey and Lewis, but she seems to be mixing the names up and might actually need to put tags on their clothes. But her daughter tells her that the more she stays with them, she won't mix them up any longer, so she should live with them. But Ethan still looks unhappy about her visiting, and Mrs. Sierra can't help but notice, so she lights a cigarette to cool off. But Ethan stops her since she's sharing the same space with the kids. She apologizes for being unqualified to act as a grandmother, but Ethan knows that she's unqualified for so many things, and his sister hushes him. "I get hurt too. I wish you'd be a little gentler with me," his mom cries out. But Ethan isn't buying it at all as he requests that she sells her father's land to him. She reminds him that the land is between her and his father, and it's not a promise that he can meddle in, but he insists on the land being essential for the new Lakers project. Yet she still insists on not doing anything that's beyond necessary for the Lakers household. Ethan gets furious and reminds her about how she left her husband and young children behind just because she wanted to find herself. And if she actually had a shred of conscience, she wouldn't be saying such. She admits to feeling guilty for her actions, and he tells her that if she's truly sorry, she'd take the money and disappear again. His sister cuts him short and asks asks that they think this through again. She pulls him aside and asks why he keeps making things difficult and he should actually be trying to persuade her rather than threatening her, but he refuses to beg before her. She asks if he's ready to give up or try taking the tip she's about to give him. She then whispers something in his ear and he's so surprised because she actually suggests that he gets married. Back at Good Couples, Lane receives a call, and she's so excited to finally have someone call in, but it turns out that the caller actually thought the line was that of a sandwich shop, and disappointment is written all over Lane's face. So she ends the call. She goes back to read her chats with Mindy, where she expressed so much trust in Lane after investing all her savings in Good Couples. Lane realizes that the real competitor she has to beat isn't actually Golden Wedding, but reality, and Jacob might actually be right about her chasing unrealistic dreams, and her excitement quickly fades off while her rational mind slowly returns. She remembers that she actually has to pay rent next week and also share profits with Mindy, who invested in her, so she can't waste any more time, and she decides to contact those she rejected earlier. She swallows her pride and chooses to start from the bottom because you can't persuade anyone if you don't have the courage to be rejected. She immediately receives a reply, and she's pretty surprised because it's from a charity party inviting her to a charity event at the Royal Hotel's VIP club. This is it. Finally, a chance to redeem herself. A few days later, it turns out that the charity event being hosted by the Lakers is a way of connecting Ethan to some upper-class, wealthy ladies, since his sister asked him to get married. However, he still seems unhappy and uninterested in the whole thing, but his sister is quite persistent and tries to show him reasons why her plan will work because their parents fear he'll dedicate his whole life to the Lakers and probably never get married and start a family. He has to show Mom that he knows how to love and that family comes before work. This is definitely Chloe's plan, and not their original plan, but she's still optimistic. Doesn't he think that it's quite unusual for Mom to attend events like this when he knows how much she dislikes these types of events? But she came here, and she might even be considering donating land to the charity. Chloe sounds so convincing in trying to make him get married, but he just can't consider such thoughts. He suddenly sees a stunning woman who looks like the lady he met at Golden Wedding's VIP lounge. It's actually Lane. Thoughts of there being at least one single person in such an event cloud Lane's head, and she scans the room for a potential VIP client she can bag, and suddenly catches a glimpse of her target. A handsome young man who looks calm, but she can see his eyes constantly scanning his surroundings. This is definitely a man who needs her help. She walks up to him and asks if he needs any company, and he's quick to grab the offer, as it'd be an honor if such a beauty is willing to be his friend. She's joyed and suggests that they talk more about each other. In no time, she quickly realizes why she met such a handsome man standing on his own because he's such a chatterbox and he's so boring. Meanwhile, he keeps blabbering about how he's the eldest son of the Bryan family, how he graduated from Wiltshire High School, and he also attended an Ivy League college like all the other people here, while his ideal type is someone modest who is a good listener and must be a cute petite lady with small hands. He's definitely a picky one, and Lane is already frustrated because he actually talks a lot. Women might not fancy someone like him, but if she's able to spin it as sociable, it'll be fine. She asks if he believes in fate, and he's surprised because it's too sudden, but she goes ahead to tell him how much she believes in fate. That's why they met here today, and he definitely needs a partner, but he gets quite nervous and immediately gets relieved when he notices that she's trying to hand him her business card. However, he gets disappointed when he finds out that she works for a marriage company, and she actually isn't trying to hook up with him herself, and he tries to convince her that she's the one for him, but she lets him know that they need to work on improving his boring conversation skills if he's trying to get a match, and he's suddenly furious. He's mad that she considers him as boring, and she tries to calm him down, but he proceeds to tell her that he's actually mad about how all the ladies here are just obsessed with one guy, and she's eager but knows who it is. But he runs off, signaling that she should find out herself if she's that curious. Her first attempt has definitely failed, but she has to give it another shot because if all the women here are obsessed with one man, then he must be the perfect groom, so she sets out to find him. And soon her eyes catch a glimpse of this man who stood out, shining brightly as if he was the only light in a black and white world. He's about to leave while his secretary tries to stop him by telling him that his sister Chloe won't be happy if he leaves like this. But now he must decide if he's Chloe's secretary or his. His secretary just can't seem to ignore Chloe's request because he has seen how hard Chloe has worked for Ethan and Ethan's happiness. But Ethan thinks the ridiculous plan won't work, but his secretary thinks otherwise. He tells him that he's sure that he has an atom on belief in Chloe. That's why he came all the way here. but Ethan tells Noah that he needs to go somewhere else and clear his head for a while. In the next room, some guys are playing a game of poker and immediately sight Ethan Lakers walking into the room, and they're prompted to ask what brings him here. And he's surprised that he's being asked such a question when they know who is hosting this party. They admit to being aware that it's hosted by the Lakers family, but they're just surprised that he's in attendance when they know that he's not the type to attend social gatherings or events, so they offer him a seat since he looks like he's here to relax. They quickly bring up the fact that they heard he's been looking for a marriage partner these days, and if it's in any way connected to the rumors circulating that he's gay, and Ethan quickly puts on a glaring look, because no matter where he goes, it's always suffocating. He quickly apologizes to Ethan and tells him that he actually doesn't believe those rumors because he knows that it's false rumors simply spread by Mr. Evans, and doesn't understand why Evans has such an inferiority complex around Ethan Lakers. But Ethan him that he doesn't want to hear that name. The guy admits to not liking Ethan either and brings up the talk about how Evans got kicked out of a hotel for running around naked, and Ethan is simply disgusted. He even goes further to say that it was because of a female employee at his company whom he tried to take advantage of. Ethan's mind quickly goes back to that day at the VIP lounge when he saw Evans with that lady that he admired, so she was truly his person, and he suddenly wears a sad face. Meanwhile, Lane is still looking for Ethan around the building when sights a door and gets a hunch that he went in there, but a man suddenly stops her because the area is off limits to women and suggests that they hang out instead. But she's hell-bent on finding Mr. Lakers, so she doesn't take no for an answer. If all the men behind this door still have their clothes on, then why should he stop her? So she quickly opens the door and 1,000 eyes are glaring at her. And as she finds it's absurd that people are still practicing a no women zone in this time and age, so they inform Mr. Ethan that a woman has infiltrated the zone because she probably heard that he's here. Ethan tells them that she's probably not here for him, but they're quite sure because she's actually heading his way, and they find her audacity quite cute. Yet Ethan is exhausted from this party. "Hello, Mr. Lakers, do you believe in fate?" Lane cutely says, and Ethan tells her that this must be some kind of religious belief, because what kind of faith pops out of nowhere that he doesn't even know anything about? She quickly makes it clear that she isn't affiliated with any religion, and that's not actually what she meant. Their meeting like this here must be fate, and she was just trying to express her familiarity, but Ethan disagrees, saying that he shares no familiarity with her as nothing about this is fate's doing, and Lane is simply frustrated. Ethan has no plans of speaking with her, or even granting her audience. But looking at that beautiful figure of his, she just can't give up. She tells him that she, in fact, has an important proposal for him if he could spare her a moment, but he declines it, and Lane is shattered inside. Why is this man making it so tough for her, as she could hear voices whispering and murmuring that she got rejected? Some feel that he shouldn't have sounded that harsh to her, even though he wasn't interested. And Lane tries to hold it in because she can't let Mindy down, especially since she has invested so much in her and her company. She's determined not to leave empty-handed, especially after coming a very long way, and she simply can't back down because of this little embarrassment, so she must make him her client today. Somehow, Ethan reads her mind and tells her that he's so sure that she's trying to propose marriage to him and approached him with the intention of making him her client. And she's shocked as she wonders if that boring man she met earlier has spread any rumors. Since it has come to this, she has to see it to the very end and make sure that all of this is worth her time and energy. So she decides to stand tall and strong as she lets him know that entrusting her company with his marriage mission will make it 100 times more successful, because they're willing to put everything on the line for him, even if it's going to cost their lives. Ethan gets furious as he tells her that what she's doing is quite unnecessary, because even if the sky falls down or the heavens split in two, he has no intentions of getting involved with her company, so she should take that useless life of hers and stake it somewhere else. Everyone is surprised as to why he's acting this way just because of a woman. Even if a woman is being annoying, his reaction is actually a bit much. While some others feel he must really despise women, and the rumors about him being gay might actually be true. Ethan is just annoyed that he had to run into Lane at this point because she seemed really close to Mark Evans that day, and they're definitely not casual acquaintances. Or how else can he explain why both of them were at the VIP lounge together during work hours? As he can only wonder the type of promises Lane makes in return for his favors. This is definitely driving him nuts, and we can sense a feeling of jealousy. That's why he's subconsciously acting this way. What if he actually likes Lane Lee? Noah finally catches up with him, and Ethan tells him that they have to leave because he's tired, but Noah gets suspicious as to why he's being awfully sensitive today. Meanwhile, at home, Lane is drinking herself to stupor as she thinks about the humiliation went through today, all because of Ethan Lakers. How could he treat his fellow human being that way, like she was just some cockroach he needed to swat away, and her friends are surprised at the extent Mr. Ethan took it to. He's definitely racist, since it's an upper-class white gathering. It was quite expected, and Lane reminds them that there were also no Asians amongst the Golden Wedding executives, because that is the world of aristocrats. They usually just want to keep it among themselves. Suddenly, drunk Lane gets up in a stagger and swears that she must deal with him if he actually reasons that way, and her friends are worried that she might cause a fuss and eventually make a mess of herself. But she tells them that she's going to confront him directly and even demand an apology, and her friends are very sure that she has lost it. They remind them that it's the Lakers family that she's talking about, but she's unwavering as she even sarcastically tells them that if Ethan is from a noble family, then she's royalty, and in fact from the Jeonju Lee clan. At the Lakers mansion, Noah is telling Ethan about how the social media is in a frenzy over rumors of him getting married, and he tries to confirm if Ethan actually has any real plans of getting married, but Ethan tells him to stop acting like he and Chloe aren't the ones planning the whole marriage thing, and possibly spreading the rumors too. Noah is surprised that Ethan noticed the little details, but Chloe is genuinely worried about him because he closed his heart due to wounds from his childhood. But Ethan doesn't want to listen to anything concerning Sierra. Noah and Chloe are just bothered over meaningless things, and the only reason he's going with their plans is because he wants Sierra's land, so he's willing to do any and everything to get a hold of the land documents, and this will make the Lakers family business thrive more. Chloe should better not hold on to pointless expectations because nothing will ever change. This were Ethan's words as Noah relates it to Chloe. Chloe is simply tired of Ethan's stubbornness, and Mom will not be willing to let the land go either because Ethan gets his stubbornness from her, and Mom somehow still feels indebted to him. Yet she can't let the land go because the land might be the only reason why Ethan still keeps in touch with her. She can now wrap her head around why the land from their father was inherited by Mom because Dad wanted both of them to reconcile. But if the land ends up going to Ethan like this, their family might remain scattered forever. Noah tries to console her when a noise from the gate disrupts them, and it turns out to be Lane making a fuss with the security man as she wants him to let her in, but he's hell-bent on her making an appointment first. As Noah approaches the gate, he recognizes Lane, and she immediately recognizes him too, as she also remembers how she was asked to wait over the phone and her email, but then he never actually got back to her. And Noah is quite amused because that was his own way of making a polite rejection, yet she failed to understand. He lets her know that showing up like this puts them in an awkward position, and Lane is simply annoyed because awkward is the situation she has been in since what happened between her and Ethan, so she has every right to demand to see him. So Chloe cuts them short as she demands to know what is going on as she introduces herself as Ethan's sister. She's Ethan's younger sister, and it's quite obvious without any introduction because they look alike. But Noah interrupts them as he whispers to Chloe that Lane is from Golden Wedding, and she has even been sent by Mark while Lane wonders what they're whispering about. But she can't let that stop her, or get misunderstood by this little setback. She quickly hands them her business card as she tells them that she's the CEO of Good Couples, and they're extremely shocked because they've misunderstood her all this while. So Chloe immediately apologizes for the misunderstanding as she tells her that Ethan isn't around, but she'll make sure to introduce her to him next time, and Lane is relieved. She orders Noah to get a car to take Miss Lane home and see her as soon as possible, she states with a deadly smirk on her face. Noah tells Chloe about everything that happened that day, and how Ethan embarrassed Miss Lane, and she's so shocked as to how Ethan would behave that way, although they both seem to be opposites of each other, like fire and ice, but there's something they have in common that is stubbornness and persistence. She quickly tells Noah to contact Miss Lane and inform her that they'll meet soon because she's planning to make them meet like she promised. But Noah feels that it wouldn't go down well because Ethan can't clear his busy schedule just to settle a little misunderstanding with her. But Chloe tells him to trust the instincts of a married woman because she doesn't think this is just a small misunderstanding. The following day, the Lakers are having dinner as they discuss about a party that Chloe is suggesting, and Helen Lakers, their grandmother, can only wonder why she's suggesting a party at this time. But her defense is that it's summer, and it's a perfect time for celebrations. Helen doesn't think it's a good idea because the Lakers family shut their doors 30 years ago when John Lakers decided to marry Sierra, and Helen's heart closed tightly with it as Ethan supports grandmother. This is all for brother's sake, Chloe blurts out, and Ethan can only wonder what she's planning again this time, and she suddenly tells grandmother that Ethan is planning to get married, and grandmother is pleasantly surprised as she commends him for trying to start a family, and she believes the party will be a good idea since it will help him meet new people. Ethan is embarrassed as he tells her to let him handle his matters, but grandmother firmly supports her as she believes that in situations like this, it's best to let a woman handle it, and possibly find a perfect match for him. And Chloe is beyond excited to get grandmother's approval and support. At the party, Lane is really glad that she finally got an invite, as she was so surprised the day the invitation came. She didn't expect it at all because why would they send a full-blown invitation just to apologize to her? But Jason thinks that they're being extremely naive because this is simply upper-class tactics. Those prideful people can never meet you just to apologize, and this party invitation is just an excuse to sweep the whole issue under the rug, and Lane is simply furious. Lane isn't ready to let it slide as she scans the party for that proud troublemaker, but runs into her nemesis, Mark Evans, and he's quite surprised to see her at a party like this as he teases her about how she probably tricked another man to get such an invitation. She's furious as she wonders what he means by that, but he tells her that she always acts innocent just to deceive poor men into thinking that she's a sweet Asian girl as he points to his arm that he broke that day when she played that trick on him at the hotel. But in her defense, she tells him that he was simply drunk, and that's why ended up causing a scene that made security throw him out, but he shuts her up. He reminds her of their unfinished business as she hasn't given him what she promised to, and she lets him know that she's about to do that right now. She deeps her hand into her purse and presents him with a middle finger and runs off. She's oddly satisfied with everything she has done to Mark, and she should have actually done it a long time ago because it feels so refreshing. While she's still basking in her progress, she bumps into Ethan as they both fall to the floor, and suddenly they see a cart with a cake on it approaching them. The cake cart suddenly tumbles on them and stains their outfits, and Lane can't help but wonder why nothing ever goes according to plans. And Ethan recognizes her immediately. But why does it have to be Ethan Lakers every single time? He asks her what she could possibly be doing here, and she tells him that he actually invited her with a card that even said "Dear" Lane Lee, but he knows that he did no such thing, and quickly suspects Chloe as he tells her to get off him. It seems Lane was lost in a trance as she totally forgot that she was still on him, and he quickly grabbed her by the arm and tried to push her off him when he slipped on some cake butter and fell directly over her. Their lips suddenly lock and she feels a sudden thud in her chest as they quickly realize what happened. He quickly gets off her while Lane wonders what just happened, because kissing such a despicable is bad luck already. Mark Evans catches the disastrous sight as he realizes who she must have seduced to get here, but Lane quickly cuts him short. He goes on and on about her not having any special skill apart from teasing men with her body and must not have learned her lesson even after getting fired. The word "fired" catches Ethan's attention as he realizes that he must have misunderstood her as Evans goes on about how he heard that she started a company that isn't going so well for her. That's why she probably needed a man to use. But he's the one who tried to use her, and since things didn't go according to how he planned, he fired her unfairly and even made sure that she doesn't get rehired in another place. But Evans scoffs and says he wouldn't waste his time on her as lowlives like her tend to live in delusion. And suddenly the chatterbox man she met at the other charity event starts talking about how he met her the other day as she was so flirty with him, and then started promoting her company. Evans immediately gets justification for all his warnings as he asks people to stay away from her because she's a gold digger. But Lane hits his jaw with her head and he starts bleeding and is about to hit her when a hand suddenly stops his. It's Ethan's. Chloe shows up and asks why Evans is being rude to a guest of the Lakers family, but Evans considers her as just an Asian who doesn't rank up to high society. And Chloe is mad at him for saying such a thing as voices start murmuring. Some say that they heard that he usually harasses his female employees, while others say they heard that's how he broke an arm. He's a complete disgrace to the Evans family. Immediately, Ethan asks him to leave, and everyone is so shocked as to what just happened while Lane asks Chloe why exactly she was invited here. But she tells her that they'd have to discuss about that somewhere else, because everyone has eyes on them already, as Ethan demands an explanation too. Chloe demands that they both clean up first as she grabs Lane by the hand to go lend her some of her own clothes. Chloe appreciates how pretty her clothes look on Lane as she teases her about being involved in high society already, but Lane doesn't seem excited about any of this, because why does the lives of rich people always have to be this complicated? Because for normal people, a simple sorry would have avoided all this embarrassment she experienced today. She apologizes to Lane and tells her that it's definitely not what she thinks, as she'd probably not believe anything she says right now, so she has to make whoever made her this upset to apologize first. Chloe takes her to the room where Ethan has been waiting for her, and he acts so politely by even offering her a seat, but she isn't even moved by it, not after all the rude things he has done. So she doesn't say a word and goes straight to her seat. She wears the same cologne as Ethan, and it draws his mind back to how soft her lips were when they had that kiss. But he quickly shoves the thoughts out of his mind. She demands that they go straight to the point because why on earth is she here? But he only asks how she got here, and that's not what she wants to hear, and it's also all he has to say too. And Chloe can only stare at them in anxiousness. So she mentions that she's the one that invited Lane because she heard about the big mistake he made with Lane the other day at the party, so he needs to apologize to clear up all the misunderstanding. She asks what misunderstanding they're talking about, and they inform her that Ethan mistook her for a Golden Wedding employee. That's close to Evans personally. That's why he acted that way, as he really dislikes Evans. Ethan is remorseful for making such a mistake, so he goes straight to apologize to her, and everyone is shocked that the ever-proud Ethan Lakers actually apologized to Lane Lee, but Lane actually thought that he disregarded her because she's Asian. So he lets her know that he'd never discriminate people like that, and she compliments him for having such a cute side to him, and he's slightly embarrassed and asks her to stop, but she goes on, and Noah and Chloe can't help but enjoy their banter. Chloe isn't satisfied with a simple sorry and even suggests that he should go ahead and compensate her. And Lane is overjoyed by the word compensation because it might probably be money, and she really needs it, right? Not. But Chloe suggests that Lane might not actually take money from him, and she's shattered. What do they take her for? An upper-class rich woman? Chloe suggests that he should request a matchmaking service from Lane's company, and he's simply flustered at Chloe's suggestion because that's extremely ridiculous. But since he hates social gatherings, what more can he do? He definitely needs an expert's help in situations like this. And Noah can't help but agree more because the reason Lane wanted to meet Ethan in the first place is because of that. So it's not a bad idea. Enjoying this so far? Comment Part 2 below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, ciao!